Welcome back everyone. I'm going to tie a bass popper with a gnarly head. This will be the first video I make tying a bass popper with one of these heads. You'll see that I've already punched the hole through with a needle, and I leave the needle there. It helps to stretch that hole open a bit. It makes it easier to put a hook through there. I also airbrushed it a little bit on top, just a light green coating to make it a little bit darker on the top, not too much. It's very easy to overdo that, so just a light spray is good enough. And I'm going to tie it sort of a fire tiger color with orange and chartreuse. Now first of all, I'm using a grip 30012 hook. Which is a standard bass stinger hook, and I'm using a grip flat waxed thread. Now again, to match to make sure the hook and the popper fit on the hook in the right way, and you tie the tail in the right place, use the tail marker. You can see that you just grab a needle and point that out, the tail marker on the popper right there on the belly. You'll see they built into the poppers. Put the popper right behind the eye of the hook and make a little mark with a permanent marker. Now from that mark backwards over the bend of the hook, you can expose the tail, and from that mark forward everything will be covered by the hook, by the popper glued onto the hook. So that marker is a very good indicator of where you can start to expose the tail. So I wrap the shank all the way to that marker, then leave a little gap and make a few more wraps forward. And as you tie, you are going to cover that, and you can just grab the popper, put it on, see if you're in the right place. So if you tie a little bit over and past or stop a little bit before that, it's not the end of the world. The tail cavity will cover the tail, and you still get the profile that you need. I'm just going to tie some flashing to start with. So I'm going to grab a few strands of orange crystal flash. About 4 or 5 strands will be more than enough. And I don't tie that too long, just right on top of the hook. About, if you double that, that should do, will be more than enough flash in the fly. I personally don't like too much flash in flies, in my flies. Cut that excess away and cover that. We'll go back towards to the tail where you started the flash. Now the tail, I'm going to use chartreuse and orange hackle. I'm using 2 chartreuse, 2 orange, 1 chartreuse, with the chartreuse between the 2 orange on each side. So it's orange chartreuse, orange on the one side and the same on the other side. You match all those hackles. Right there. And I strip the hackles so that now the tail, I'm going to use 2 orange and 1 chartreuse on each side. So it will be an orange, chartreuse, orange on each side, with the hackle pointing away from each other. Match those hackles up like that. So that's the tail. You can see they're going. Match the hackles up like that, and that's the tail. So it's not like a deceiver style where the tips are nice and together. They split. So they curve out away from each other. And strip that fluff. I don't strip all the fluff. I like to keep a bit of that, especially on bass flies. It just adds a little bit of body to the fly. And just get control over that. And tie that on top. Just want to make sure I don't cover that gap that I left in the thread, so that I've got an idea of where I need to start to wrap stuff down and finish the fly off, the tail off. Trim that, and I tie the stems in on top of the hook or on the hook all the way to the front, because you need that little bit of body for the popper to grip on. So I like to bolt that up, and I'm going to show you something else that I do before we tie that popper onto the hook, or glue it onto the hook. I just want to make sure I'm still in the right spot. There we go. And then next is 2 marabou feathers with soft stems, and I take an orange and a chartreuse again. Orange, and then I need a chartreuse. There we go. And I tie the tips in. And this is a very simple popper. You don't have to be too fussy with the tail, or let's just have enough movement. Tie that. Split that. And do the same with the orange, so you can open that up so you can grab the very tip of that feather, and you match the two together like that, and that is what you're going to tie in, the tip of that feather. Grab that forward, cut the end away, and wrap all the way back. Now, the reason for wrapping back is I could go and wrap the hackle, palm tie the hackle now, but I like to wrap it all the way back and then take my thread forward with open loops, like that. Because it's much easier that if you do it that way to get to the point where you need to tie it off than when you have to wrap the thread back. So I take both these marabou feathers together. I'm going to just match that. I want to see where I need to stop, where all the way. Okay, I've got a good idea. And you wrap or palm tie the marabou forward. And this creates a very nice profile. and a lot of movement. Just grab a dubbing needle and make sure you don't trap those marabou fibers. Go. Just going to grab that popper and see if it's still not right. That's fine. And one more, and then we're going to tie it off. So now we've got the marabou there. If you have to wrap the thread back, you're going to trap a lot of those fibers. So what I do is just get all of that back there, and I hold everything in my left hand. I unwind the thread, and there you go, right there on the spot where you need to be, without trapping any of those fibers. Trick is to try and tie this down without trapping too many unnecessary fibers, but you're always going to do that, and that is not the end of the world. So I'm going to secure that with a few wraps. I'll tie that, or cut that off short, because it's a bit messy to tie that all the way to the front. And that's the tail. So the last thing we do before I glue the head on is to tie a piece of foam in, and to build this shank up a little bit with a piece of foam. I like to have a little bit of movement on the head. So I don't want a fish to hit the fly and the glue crack, or if you've got a elastic head glued onto a steel hook. So I prefer to have a little bit of play there. So what I do is, first of all, I use a contact adhesive. I'm not sure if that's available in all the countries, but in South Africa that's available in most shops, and it's kind of a yellow glue and nasty stuff to work with, but I found that it's the best to use for these poppers. And I just put a little bit of glue on the shank, and I then tie a piece of foam, 2mm foam, very fine strip. So you can just cut from any scrap piece. Color doesn't really matter either, because you won't see this. Tie that in on top of the hook. Put a little bit more glue on there. And then wrap that piece of foam. You can stretch it a little bit and wrap that forward. And this will give you that little bit of a shock absorber with a bit of movement on the head. Just grab that again. Should actually use my hackle pliers, but you can tie that off right there. Cut that. And you can tie the thread off. And trim that. Now, what I'd like to do before I glue the popper on is to take a bare hook and just push the popper onto the bare hook to make sure that the eye of the hook will come out in the right spot, like that. So that goes through quite easy. So I'm going to take that bare hook out, and then I'm going to glue the shank. So you take some more of this nasty stuff and glue the front half of the shank, because when you push the popper over, it's going to push some of that glue backwards. That should be enough. And I'm going to take this popper and I can kind of screw it on, and that spreads the glue nicely around the shank. Then make sure that the eye of that hook comes out in the right place, and that is the popper head glued onto the hook. Now you can immediately see the profile. It's not the traditional cone-shaped head where everything narrows down to the hook shank here and then it pops up again. There's a much better profile on this. But we're not done yet. So the eyes I'm going to use are the new frog eyes, grip frog eyes, and I'm going to use yellow, and again I glue them on with contact adhesive. I don't just trust the glue that they come on. They often come off with a glue that these things are supplied with. So I always glue them on with contact adhesive. Take a bit of the glue, rub it on the back of the eye, and glue that in. I just need to make sure that it sits in the right position. And for this size popper, I use an 8mm eye, so it's quite big eyes. Okay. And then we do the same with the second eye on the other side. Make sure that's in place, and that's what it looks like. I used yellow eyes. These eyes are also available in green, and we will be expanding the color range very soon. Last step is to do some rubber legs. So I'm going to use two different colors of silly legs. I'm going to use a barred yellow and a barred orange. I'm going to thread them through a needle, just like that. Make sure the ends meet so they're same length on both sides. And I'm just going to cut these. They're almost the same length, but now they are the same length, just like that. And then you stick them through the back behind the eyes. And I always stick them sort of halfway behind the eye, between the eye and the back end of the popper head, just over the hook shank. Right there. And then pull those legs through and cut the loop, and then you can just work them through so that they are same length on both sides. It's pretty easy to do, and then you leave this to dry. Now once it's dry and you feel the head, and you can feel that you can rotate it a little bit, and that is the movement that I like on the on a popper head. There must be a little bit of movement. I think it just makes them last a little bit longer, and fish are not going to destroy them that quickly. So tie a few. You can tie them in all sorts of colors. These heads are available in black, white, chartreuse, orange and purple, and in 4 sizes for everything from bass to GTs. So please subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.